We need to have an honest conversation about one of nutrition science's dirtiest secrets. We don't really know what people are eating. Most dietary research relies on self-reported food intake, and self-reported data is notoriously unreliable. This undermines much of what we think we know about intermittent fasting and diet in general. People lie about what they eat. Not always intentionally, but the lying is pervasive. Studies comparing self-reported calorie intake to actual energy expenditure measured by doubly labeled water, the gold standard, consistently find that people underreport their intake by 20 to 30% or more. Overweight individuals tend to underreport even more than lean individuals. This isn't moral failing. It's human psychology, social desirability bias, memory limitations, and denial. Food diaries and dietary recalls are the primary data collection methods in most nutrition studies, including intermittent fasting research. Participants write down what they ate or recall their intake when interviewed. But memory is fallible. People forget snacks. They underestimate portion sizes. They don't account for cooking oils, condiments, and beverages. They have no idea how many calories are actually in the restaurant meal they just ate. For intermittent fasting research specifically, the compliance problem is acute. Did participants really stick to their eating windows? Did they have late-night snacks they didn't report? Did they have cream and sugar in their morning coffee while fasting? Did they break their fast with a handful of nuts at 11 a.m. but not write it down because it seemed insignificant? We don't know. We're trusting self-reports, and those reports are almost certainly inaccurate. The discrepancy between controlled feeding studies and free-living studies reflects this measurement problem. When researchers provide all food and monitor consumption directly, as in metabolic ward studies, you get very precise data but limited real-world applicability. When participants live their normal lives and self-report intake, you get real-world applicability but terrible data quality. There's no perfect solution. Emerging technologies might help. Smartphone apps with photo documentation of meals provide some accountability. Continuous glucose monitors can objectively show when someone ate something, though they don't tell you what or how much. Wearable devices tracking activity and heart rate might correlate with meal timing. But these technologies aren't used in most studies, and even they have limitations. The compliance issue affects how we interpret results. If a study finds intermittent fasting produced modest weight loss, but compliance was only 60%, meaning people frequently broke their eating windows, does that mean the intervention is weak? Or does it mean the intervention works well but adherence is difficult? These are different conclusions with different implications. There's also the problem of what people report versus what researchers asked them to do. An isocaloric study instructs participants to maintain their normal calorie intake within a restricted window. But if participants spontaneously reduce intake because the window makes eating less convenient, the study is no longer truly isocaloric. The researchers might believe they're testing meal timing, but they're actually testing a calorie restriction intervention. This conflation undermines the entire study design. Placebo effects and expectation bias matter too. If participants believe intermittent fasting will help them, they might unconsciously eat less or make better food choices during the study, independent of the actual fasting protocol. They might exercise more. They might be more motivated. These behavioral changes, driven by belief rather than the intervention itself, could produce outcomes that seem to support intermittent fasting, but actually reflect the power of expectation. The gold standard would be metabolic ward studies where all food is provided and consumption is directly observed, but these are incredibly expensive and can only be done for short periods. We can't keep people in metabolic wards for months or years. So we're stuck with the trade-off between precision and practicality. What does this mean for interpreting intermittent fasting research? It means we should be skeptical of precise claims. When a study reports exact calorie intake or perfect adherence to eating windows based on self-reports, take it with a massive grain of salt. The data is probably inaccurate. Look for objective biomarkers, weight change, glucose levels, cholesterol that don't rely on self-report. and recognize that the messy reality of human dietary behavior is much more complex than any study can fully capture.